The RG556 is the latest handheld from Anbernic, and this thing is really unique. It's a little bit cool, a little bit awkward, a little bit weird, and a little bit amazing. Just like me. And also just like me, it has a few shortcomings that might be a deal breaker for some people, like the girls I tried to talk to in the grocery store, but this has some seriously redeeming features that make it stand out from the crowd and might be the one thing that makes this thing the thing that you've been waiting for. Like me. Anbernic is known for making some interesting design choices from time to time. Sometimes they're home runs and sometimes they're just weird. When I first saw the RG556, I was pretty sure I'd hate it. I tend to prefer small, sleek, little streamlined devices without a bunch of protrusions and humps and handles all sticking out willy-nilly. It also feels like too little too late, hitting the market after the Retroid Pocket 4 at about the same price but offering less performance. I didn't know how it would actually feel or how it would actually perform, but I kinda knew that I wouldn't like it. And then, when I did get it in my hands for the first time and I held it in my hands and stared into that giant OLED screen, against all odds, I fell in love. This thing is ugly, it looks awkward, it's not the most powerful, but none of that matters because there are things about this device that make it great. Greater than it should be on paper. And I'm gonna say something kind of controversial right now. Are you ready? Well, I hope so because here it comes. I like this thing more than the Retroid Pocket 4. It's that good. Are you intrigued? No? Well, what about now? Very often, a device can look awkward, but you get it in your hands and all of a sudden you can't remember why it ever looked awkward because it feels so good. That's this thing. I love having my hands on it, if you know what I mean. Yeah, you do. The grip shape has these big humps at the bottom to squeeze and this little lip to rest those fingies and provide support, except Anbernic took it one step further and extended the grips down below the device. That's what makes it look awkward, but that's an awesome choice here for pure comfort. Not only that, but the plastic is smooth, and while that lends itself to getting smudgy, oh my god, the smudges on this thing, you wouldn't believe it. There is also no denying that it feels silky smooth in your hands. This is one of, if not the, most comfortable handhelds that I've ever touched. And that's saying a lot because I've touched a lot of them. The size is also a big part of why it's so comfortable. This thing is big, man. I've grown to really appreciate gaming on a nice big device. For me, it's like, it's either got to be a big device that isn't portable but is super comfortable to game on, something that I'm gonna grab around the house or keep in my tech purse, or it's got to be super portable, teeny tiny, live in my pocket size, like the Miu Mini.
Hello?
Oh my god, shut up. I told you not to talk to me.
I just want to be here for...
We've seen lots of devices with the older T618 processor over the last year or so, but now on the RG556, we're on the newer Unisoc T820. I don't want to get too technical on you, but according to my calculations, the T820 is precisely 202 more now. That's a number. It's not as performant as the D1100 in the Retroid Pocket 4 Pro, and I don't have a non-Pro RP4, but I don't think it would even beat the D900 that's in that thing, but it's in the same ballpark. It'll play lots of the same stuff, and it's still a decent improvement over the T618. And we also get some other specs. Here they are. And no, I'm not going to read them to you, because I'm not your mother. You can read your own specs, or ask your mother to read them to you when she gets home from my place. The price will depend on where you buy it from, but from the official store on AliExpress, you can grab this for $175 during the pre-sale period. And I think the price is going to increase by like $10 after that. There's a link to this in the description below if you want one. So right now, this is sort of sitting right between the Retroid Pocket 4 Non-Pro and the RP4 Pro. That's where it is price-wise. And real quick, I just want to acknowledge this. This is the carrying case that they're selling with this thing. And no, your eyes do not deceive you. Apparently, Anbernic handheld cases are now being designed by Gucci. You'll look pretty freaking cool, carrying around your retro emulation toy in a Gucci bag. Scumbag Steve would love this thing. The controls on the RG556 are great, for the most part, except for the sticks. The D-pad is great. Anbernic departed from their usual D-pad material and went for a glossy, smooth-feeling D-pad. It reminds me of the D-pad on the Steam Deck. I really love the way this feels. There are some slight false diagonals, but nothing terrible. No problem pulling off special moves in fighting games. The ABXY are also good. They have the same glossy plastic of the D-pad and they also feel really good. Rubber membrane on these, no complaints from me. The triggers are amazing. These are Hall effect triggers and they have a good range of motion, great responsiveness throughout the entire range, and the thumbsticks suck. I'm sorry, but these are just terrible. They are Hall effect, but that doesn't tell you much because these are not good. They have cardinal direction snapping, low precision, jerky movement. I mean, they work fine for most retro games. It's not a deal breaker, but these sticks are one thing that feels really last gen about this device. Hopefully Anbernic improves their sticks at some point. Oh, and I just remembered. Click the subscribe button. Phew. Glad I remembered that. And now we come to the screen. Man, what a freaking screen. The first time that you power it up and you see that Anbernic logo, pure stark white and pure black, and then you're taken to the bright and beautiful interface, it's kind of magical. The magic of OLED, where the bright colors pop out of a sea of inky blackness. The screen on the 556 is among, if not the best screens that I've seen on a handheld. Definitely the best that I've seen on a sub $200 handheld. It's 5.5 inches, which is big without being huge, that's what she said. It's super bright, super crisp, super clear, perfect viewing angles. It's not going to come across on camera. Filming screens never looks as good as they do in real life. And when you film OLED screens, you get this kind of banding effect that you do not see with your naked eye. So you'll just have to trust me. It's an absolutely gorgeous screen. Every game you play will look incredible. Even something simple and older like Contra. The bright, colorful pixel sprites and landscapes just pop off the screen, and the sky is just pure dark blackness. It's kinda crazy that we're getting a screen this good on a device that costs less than $200. Oh, and here's a thing. I went into this expecting to see that same dumb sharpening filter that Anbernic uses on all their Android devices. This was something that drove me nuts on the RG405M and the 405V and the 505. And there were early reports that they were gonna get the same thing here. But I was worried for nothing. There is no sharpening filter here. The screen is sharp, as it should be, but it doesn't have that cheesy filter that Anbernic has used in the past. Maybe they've learned from their mistakes? One can only hope. The system that we have on here is a very unremarkable, normal Android build. Anbernic has their own game launcher thing. It's alright, it works well enough, and if you don't want to have to set anything up, then you can use this and get by just fine. But immediately I set mine up to use Nova Launcher as the default home app, and my retro gaming front end is Dig. I made a guide of how I set up my Android emulation devices. Check that out, link below if you want to know how I did this. Way better and more fun to use than Daijisho, in my opinion. But use whatever you like. I'm not here to yuck your yum, as my mom would say. In the quick settings, we can turn off the LEDs around the sticks, and we can enable high mode, which is like a max performance mode, and also change the fan speed. Speaking of which, the fan is way quieter here than on the RP4 Pro. The RP4 fan is super loud and high-pitched and yucky, and this fan is less loud and less high-pitched and almost yummy. And you can turn it off on the RG556, unlike the RP4 Pro. The only extra settings that we have are Anbernic's Key Mapper, which will let you map on-screen touch controls to the physical controls. And that works okay for basic stuff, but it's not great. The aiming controls kinda suck, and there's no real options to tweak the stick movement or the sensitivity. It's probably fine for simple games, but don't expect to play anything that requires precision. And then we have docked mode. The USB-C port on the bottom of this thing is a full-featured USB-C, So we get full 1080p DisplayPort video out, charging, and an OTG connection for peripherals. Plus you can connect up multiple Bluetooth controllers, so you can essentially use this thing as a home console. The RP4 Pro does this too, but the actual quality of the video is much better on the RG556 for whatever reason. When it comes to performance, obviously all the easy stuff is gonna run fine. However, I will say that even the easy stuff is amazing to play on this device. And it's because of this big beautiful OLED screen that makes pixel art games look the best that they've ever looked. And also the super comfortable controls. Obviously the easy stuff like PS1 and Nintendo 64 is gonna run great, even upscaled. You're also going to get perfect Dreamcast and Sega Saturn, which you can upscale to 1080p without issue. And for higher end emulation, let's get this out of the way. If you're looking for pure performance, this isn't the device to get. It has good performance, much better than Anbernic's last generation offerings, but it's not going to impress you if raw horsepower is your goal. I think that there are really good reasons to get this thing, even considering that it's not the top of the performance tier, but I want to be realistic for you here, because I care about you. Clicking the thumbs up button. PSP is going to be no problem. Most games can be upscaled to the native device resolution, and the hardest to run games can be upscaled to at least 2x resolution or beyond. 3DS is pretty good. Easier to run games can run at 3x or 2x resolution, and the harder games usually run fine at 1x. There will probably be a few really hard to run 3DS games that don't run well, but everything that I tested did work with at least 1x resolution. GameCube and Wii and PS2 are good. They're not perfect. There will be games that don't run well even at 1x resolution and even if you tweak the settings. But there is a lot more here that's playable compared to the last gen T618 devices. There are some pretty demanding games that run great even at 2x resolution. If you're okay with the occasional stutter from shader compilation or going in and tweaking the underclocking settings, then you're going to get even more GameCube and PS2 to be playable. But you'll have to accept that you won't be playing everything. Compared to the RP4 Pro, it's a bit less performant, but it's not like these two devices are worlds apart in terms of performance. Realistically, everyone knows if you want perfect GameCube and Wii and PS2, you need an Odin too. But at less than $200, this RG556 is doing really well, in my opinion. And for Switch, it's the usual story. As simple games will probably run okay. Some will run with a bit of slowdown, but they'll still be playable. But most of the demanding stuff isn't gonna run well. And there will be glitches and crashes and games that just don't work. Switch emulation is early in development, and it'll get better and better as time goes on. But for now, I don't recommend getting this for Switch, because you'll be disappointed if you do. I know that lots of people are going to scoff at the fact that this doesn't perform as well as the RP4 or the RP4 Pro, and I get that. Performance is a huge deal to lots of people, and it is to me too. But the deeper I get into this hobby, the more I'm learning that, for me, performance isn't the end goal. The actual experience of gaming on a device is more important than how many games it plays, for me. I would rather have a device that does not do all the highest end stuff, but play all the low end stuff in a super enjoyable way, rather than not that. And that's what this thing does well. The actual experience of gaming for all the games that you're going to play on it. The size, the comfort in your hands, the tight controls, except for the thumbsticks, and that big freaking beautiful OLED screen that makes your games look better than they ever have. If you're here to game, to actually play retro games and enjoy the experience, then the RG556 is probably going to serve you better than an RP4 Pro or non-Pro. Like I said at the start, I did not expect to like this thing at all. And instead of just liking it, I came away from this review freaking loving it. There are some downsides, like the thumbsticks and their performance and the look of the thing. God, I hate the look of it. But I would much rather pick this up to actually game on than an RP4 Pro, even though the RP4 Pro can play a bit more stuff, and has better thumbsticks, and looks cooler. But it's a trade-off, right? It's always a trade-off. No device is perfect, except for the Miu Mini.
Aw, thanks, TechDweeb.
Shut up. If you want an RG556 for yourself, there's a link to where you can buy this from Anbernic on AliExpress in the description below. And that brings us to the end. Thanks for watching and stuff. If you like this video, then maybe check out this video, my review of the RG Arc, which is another unique Anbernic device. I actually ended up liking that one too. There's a link on the screen right now and down in the description below, and you can go watch that now because we are done. I'm TechDweeb. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.